This in my hand is arguably the fastest computer or a laptop you could buy in the market right now. Apple promises this to be 6 times faster than a traditional PC desktop and 2 times faster than the M1. So I've had 10 days with this laptop, and let's see how this fares. One of the great things about owning a MacBook or any Apple devices is that the devices look super premium and sleek. And ever since I unboxed this, I couldn't keep my eye away from how this looks. The space black version looks super good. But the only thing that I would probably worry about is the fingerprint. I think this is a fingerprint magnet. I think everyone's been talking about it for years, how fingerprint magnet this is. But you do feel it, right, when you have if you have like light shining on it, you definitely feel there's loads of fingerprints. But I guess that's also the case with all the MacBook Air. If you don't want fingerprints, you probably have to choose the silver version. What's bothered me more than the fingerprint is the tiny scuffs. I mean, the scuffs are really visible on this one. In my unboxing video, I put this side by side with the MacBook Air. And I think in process of doing that, I must have scratched it. There is a tiny scuff in here. Heavy to carry around. So with what everyone is saying about how heavy it could feel, I think that is right. If you're a student and you're looking to put this in a bag, carry this for a longer period of time, I think 14-inch is the right size. I think 16-inch is just a little bit heavy, even though you get a little bit more benefit on the 16-inch. Which I think sometimes when I do photo editing and stuff like that, I thought, yeah, 16-inch would have made sense in terms of much better cooling system, much better speakers. But it feels heavy. I think most of the time we carry this like on the edge like that. If I turn it around, I think everyone carries it like that. I think it's the edge can feel a little bit heavier, and you don't want to be dropping this thing. And this is also spec'd with 24 GB of RAM. I opted for the 24 GB instead of the 16 GB mainly because, again, I've mentioned in my previous videos, if Apple is giving you the 16 GB, go with the 24 GB. I think it makes sense this year to actually choose more RAM and less storage because Thunderbolt 5 on this does provide a good transfer speed. So you could just get a Thunderbolt 5 supported external drive and you're going to have no problem just connecting a much bigger external drive. This year, I think it's worth going for as much RAM as possible. I think go for the lowest amount of storage and getting external storage is much cheaper, and Thunderbolt 5 helps those transfer speeds of transferring files from your machine to the external hard drive. So that's really good. So do consider that. If you haven't seen my previous video, do watch that. There is a little trick that you can do to actually get an M4 Pro £200 cheaper through Apple. We played Apple at their own game, which allows you to configure this with a higher RAM for a slightly cheaper price. And also what I liked about the build here is the ports, right? It comes with 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports. M4 Pro and Pro Max gives you Thunderbolt 5. If you go for the base version, you only get a Thunderbolt 4. Not that it's a big difference, but I think it's nice if you're looking, again, if you're going to go for an external storage model, I think it's nice future-proofing the devices. But I do like the fact that it comes with 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports, a HDMI port, the memory card slot, and the 3.5mm jack, and then also the MagSafe. The MagSafe is a good option, especially because it frees up another charging port. If anyone's coming from an M1 MacBook Air, you would see you needed one of those USB-C ports to charge your device. But on this one, you don't need that. You can just charge using the MagSafe, which then allows you to have 3 different Thunderbolt 5 ports. And then the last thing I want to talk about in terms of build is the screen on this device. The screen on this device is amazing. You do get the Liquid Retina XDR display, so that is the difference. If you're coming from MacBook Air to MacBook Pro, the display is different. You do get the XDR version. There is the SDR brightness goes up to 1000 nits, and then the HDR brightness goes to 1600 peak nit brightness. And that is showing. I have done a side-by-side comparison of the MacBook Pro and the M2 MacBook Air, and the display does look really good. It's not as good as the 4.5K Retina display, but it's really good for a laptop, especially if you're editing videos, if you're watching Netflix, if you're consume a lot of video content. That's really good. And when Apple say the laptops come with 22-hour battery life or the 24-hour battery life, they do sort of compare with video streaming. So for that, I think the video streaming on that is really, really good. So if you can get a nice quality like this on the screen and still watch 22 hours worth of video, that's super positive. Now let's talk about the day-to-day performance. The best thing about this device is the ability to start off. No matter when you open the device, it is ready to go. I think the biggest thing about the Apple systems are that the fact that the standby is super great. When you open it, the machine is ready to go. So I've been amazed by the fact that I'd be editing really late at one night and the next day morning I open and the system knows exactly where I was. And the battery also doesn't drain as much when you're on standby mode. So that is really, really a positive. And also if you're using Apple's ecosystem like iPhone mirroring, airdropping from your iPhone to your Mac devices or your iPad, that is super awesome. And one thing I really liked about the performance of the M4 is the ability to load websites. My God, it's fast. I mean, I don't take a lot of the marketing jargons when companies try to sell their products, but you can see the difference between how fast each website's load. I've had a side-by-side comparison of some of the websites that has taken me longer on my MacBook Air and my i7 Intel iMacs, and this is super quick, lightning quick. Even everything on Chrome feels like you're using Safari, and that's the beauty of this thing is that because the power is so much, every single third-party app almost starting to feel like native apps. They're so quick, they're so snappy, and I think Apple have done it this year in terms of performance. When they spoke about it being 6 times faster than a traditional PC, they weren't kidding. When they spoke about it being 2 times faster than the M1, I think it's like 2, 4, 5 times faster than my M2 when I use it. I mean, I'm not comparing stats, minute number and getting a percentage, but generally on a day-to-day basis, my God, is lightning quick. You feel like you get the value for money. Combined with the body and how it feels, it's a well-made machine. But it does have its flaws in terms of few design quirks, right? It does support up to 3 external devices. I wasn't able to test whether it can support the 3 external devices, mainly because I didn't have 3 monitors that supported the Thunderbolt 5 connection. I had a USB hub, the U-Green USB hub that connected to 2 external monitors plus the laptop screen. That didn't work initially, and I didn't want to chance my luck because historically when Apple device new releases, these third-party USB-C hubs can brick your devices. But I tried it again with Display Link Manager. It worked, so I was able to get the 3 external display setup, but I can only get it to work through the Display Manager. But then to run the Display Manager, you're looking at percentage of your RAM being wasted. So that is a little bit of a confusion. The technical advancements every single year means you might have to upgrade the accessories that you might have. And I think if you're an average consumer, please do not take a chance in sort of using an older tech. Just always check with the manufacturers of the accessories that you're using to see whether that supports, especially the ones that plug into the devices, because they could brick your devices and you don't want to do that on an expensive device. The summary from my day-to-day usage just shows that the machine is really, really powerful. I tried putting it through the Cinebench test and it performed really, really well. I did the Blackmagic disk test, disk speed test, and that's really, really good. I downloaded a few apps in terms of fanning to check the fan speeds, and it does everything out of the box. My recommendation here is, look, there are channels out there that shows you that Apple have delivered in terms of the performance, in terms of the efficiency. There's no need for everybody to do the test, because when you do the test, it runs up the fan and you can see it does get quite loud, it gets noisy, it is warm to touch as well. I think in general, if I'm using heavy tasks and you can hear the fan run, and when you put your hands on the bezel just outside of the trackpad, you can feel it getting warm, especially with it being aluminium. I think the heat does travel, so you can feel it. But my general advice would be for an average user is to not run these benchmark tests. I mean, these devices are powerful enough. There's no point keep running the benchmark tests. I've done a few. and yeah, it's exactly what they say. But I do not want to be wearing my internals quicker than it needed to be. The other thing I've noticed is when I'm doing the black magic test, the black magic test kept running in the background. It didn't stop, so it kept on going till I was like, why is my machine super hot? My benchmark test was still running, spinning up the fan. Just don't do that. You know you bought a powerful machine, and just you would know that the machine is capable of everything on a day-to-day basis. There's no need to actually test it every single day. If you want to test it, go ahead, Cinebench, Geekbench, test it. Be happy with it, but I would not continue testing that. One other thing I was super disappointed is the Apple Intelligence. I know there's rave review around that. Apple is hyping that. There's quite a lot of videos on YouTube where people have tested it. As soon as I set up the machine, I said okay to Apple Intelligence. Only way for it to get it to work was to change my language to US setting. I've changed that and I've managed to install that. It does give me a summary of it and I can ask that, but I haven't seen it benefiting me on a day-to-day basis. Yes, there are more features to come. I have started writing commands like, what's on my inbox and read my latest emails out. That's okay, but it said what Apple has guaranteed. I think the jury is still out on this feature. I've also used Apple Intelligence to look up my script and to proofread it. I think it's good for things like proofreading or grammar checks, maybe change the tone. But again, when I talk about sending an email, I want the email to sound like me. I don't want the email to sound like a tone that the AI system thinks is correct. So I'm not really sure what benefit the Apple Intelligence has added so far. It might turn out to be good. I think again, I'm being very cynical in terms of why would they increase the RAM size from 8 GB to 16 GB? Because it's just going to take so much of computational power to get this to run on a day-to-day basis. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be more features coming in the future. But for something that's marketed against Apple Intelligence, I think it's a letdown so far. This is the recording straight from the MacBook Pro's webcam. I just want to show what the default settings are and how it sounds. So by default, it has the center stage turned off. So you can see that it's turned off, and it's also distance quite far away from me. But in the options in here, you have the green options at the top with the webcam on it. So if you click on that, you can turn on the center stage like this. So once the center stage is turned on, it should zoom you in, and then that's how it's going to work. So there we go. You've got all of this. The quality is, I don't think it's really great, but it does well for like work calls and stuff like that. Obviously I've got a window over here, so there's lights up here, and it's quite dark, but overall everything looks a little bit smooth. I think there is some sort of processing going on. But there are also more options in here. Like for example, if you just want a portrait, this is how you enable the portrait. So you see, I think it's got a bit blurry. You see my hands have gone blurry. Maybe I can use this at the back. It's gone a bit blurry, and you see, so these are nice, good features to have. There's also studio light, which puts a lot of focuses on my face, and then turns off the background at the back. So that's really good. And then also there's a background option in here if you want to change that to anything else. I can change the color. I can also put like some images. I'm an Apple employee now, so that these are really good. And then also you can enable the reactions, which does all of these things. There we go. And this is for the subscribers. It does all of that. And then there's also the mic mode. So this, at the moment, what you're hearing is the standard mic without any voice isolation, anything on that. So if you have the option to turn on the voice isolation, I don't know how this sounds. I'm still in a quieter room, but if you're in like a cafe, restaurant, or in a noisy office block, turn that on, and that should quieten everything and help people listen to you. And it's quite hard. I'm still looking at my face, but these are all of the features. I think it gets a thumbs up. It's a massive upgrade from the previous, if you're coming from the MacBook Air or any models that have a lower and inferior camera, but it's 1080p and it seems to do the job. Another thing I wasn't happy about in the first 10 days is the battery life. I think the first day I probably only got like 6 hours worth of performance out of it before I needed to fully recharge. The second and third day were almost similar. I think it's depending on the softwares that you use. the battery is being drained faster, but I'm giving it a benefit of the doubt. I think the machine needs to learn from my usage. It has gotten better, so maybe I'm being super critical of it, but it has gotten better on day 5, 6, and 7. That just shows that the operating system is learning from my usage. But the first few days, it's quite bad, and I don't know, some of the apps may not even be compatible, but it is something to watch out for. I'm definitely not getting the 22 hours advertised. The biggest thing that I do is I edit using Final Cut Pro, I edit using probably CapCut, I've tested DaVinci Resolve, and I casually browse around, check my emails, and Apple Intelligence running. But you know, the battery hasn't been great. Maybe I'm lucky enough to get 12, 15 hours out of it as it's optimizing, and in future it might be better. But at the moment, it's something that I'm monitoring closely. I might leave an update on my community section on the channel. If you do actually check the community section on my channel, I have shared screenshots of the battery performance till date. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the software performance. So yes, I mentioned day to day the performance is really good. I think overall it has been positive, and you could hear that in my tone. I was a little bit disappointed to sort of see there are software issues. When I set up the initial setup, I ran into issues. I could not create a new iCloud. I wanted to set up a new iCloud for this MacBook because I wanted to use it for the YouTube channel. I wanted to keep it separate, but it kept on saying it couldn't create a new iCloud account. And then also that happened for quite a few days before I had to look at Apple support and found other ways of, you know, creating a new account and signing in. That might not be an issue related to this machine, and it might be just services, might have some internet problems or whatever. But that was the first problem that I've noticed. Then I downloaded the Final Cut Pro, and I just started running into issues. Again, this is something that I've shared on the community section, but Final Cut Pro kept on crashing every single time I added a layer. It took 100% of the CPU and crashed and crashed and crashed. And I've updated to the Final Cut Pro 11 now, and it's got to the point where I'm now editing all of my videos on CapCut and DaVinci Resolve. And it's also a bit disappointing that the app that crashed is the native app, is one of Apple's own apps. It could be just a flawed setting and I might have to reset it, but I didn't want to factory reset right now because I'm using it for review. It would put me back a couple of days, but I did run into software issues, which is disappointing, right? Mainly when it comes from Apple's own products. Then the other issue I had is around the mouse trackpad. I've had issues where the trackpad, when you double click, it wasn't clicking, or when you double click, it highlights and it thinks I want to rename a file and I didn't. I have finally figured out how to fix that. I'm going to put another video on the ultimate settings that you need to ensure that you don't run into issues like this, which would cover what I've done to fix my trackpad issues. But yeah, issue after issues on first few days weren't a great sign. With Final Cut Pro crashing, with trackpad not functioning as how I wanted, and the battery going down and being consumed and not being optimized. Some apps are just still not optimized enough for the new chips. It started to worry me a little bit. So who knows, maybe after 10 days my experiences would change as things would be optimized a little bit better. But so far, whilst the computer is good and it's blazing fast and it's probably the best machine that I've had, there are still software issues present at this point in time. And the overall performance, whilst I said it's quick and it's fast, I've also started seeing differences in terms of export speeds. 4K 20-minute video used to take me probably a couple of hours on my i7 iMac. Yeah, that's how much I struggled just getting these videos out, and then probably would take me over 50-60 minutes of export on my MacBook Air. Probably only takes me like 15-20 minutes. It feels quick. Yes, I've not rigorously tested the benchmarks and rigorously tested the time and put it in a chart view, mainly because, like I said earlier, I do not want to abuse the machine. I do not want to have my machine wearing off really quickly, but it does genuinely feel super quick. The video exports are the best I've seen so far in my personal usages. I probably don't need this video, probably would only take me 20-30 minutes max. I think 30 minutes is pushing it. I don't think I've waited more than 15 minutes to export a video that is 10 minutes long in a 4K format. So in terms of performance, that's really, really good. I think that's how you can judge the performance of these machines, right? Like, I think any machines can do day-to-day. Nowadays, everything can do a day-to-day task pretty well. In terms of performance, you just have to stress test it. Actually, the most extensive tasks that you are going to do, can it do that faster than your previous computer? And for me, miles ahead. This can do that miles ahead than anything else that I've owned so far. Having said all of that, am I really happy about the £2,400 I spent on this machine? On some days, yeah. And on other days, I do think, like, look, it is a lot of money. And in terms of what we are offered, can be a little bit different. I think Apple's offering in terms of hardware has been the same. I think this, whilst this is a sleek design, looks really, really good, it probably needs a refresher soon. I think the rumors are the refreshers potentially coming in 2 years. But my wish list for this would be, I think, to make it feel like it's worth the money, value for the money. Not just the performance I spoke about earlier, but, you know, an OLED screen. Yes, the Liquid Retina XDR screen is really good, but I think it'd be even better. Imagine a MacBook Pro with an OLED screen. That's going to really, really pop. I mean, we're already getting the Liquid Retina screens, the 4.5K screens on iMac. Maybe that screen needs to come onto the MacBook Pro. And the notch, man, the notch on the screen, why is it there? Like, Face ID, bring Face ID in. Yes, like, it'd be super quick. I think it even saves time without having to go to the fingerprint scanning. Yes, I understand there might not be enough space to put the technology in there. The screen is super thin. Just maybe Apple has a way to probably do it in a different way. I mean, if they can get a desk view from the camera, they might be able to do something else within that. But that would be another wish list for me. And then make it slightly lighter. I mean, where if we got to the point with mobile phones, it was getting thinner and lighter. I think MacBook Pros needs to get thinner and lighter. More people would probably upgrade to the 16-inch model if things are a little bit lighter. And my last one, more colors. I mean, you've only got two colors. Yes, it has the space black and silver. Maybe what happened to the rose gold version? I mean, God, I hated that, but still, more choices are better, I would suppose. Maybe even a white version. Think about a white MacBook Pro. That'd be super amazing. Overall, based on the last 10 days worth of usage, it made me realize that we're at a stage in technology where actually hit the saturation point, right? And Apple have done really well to deliver performance year on year. I mean, crazy performance uplift when you're comparing this with a PC or when you're comparing this with an M1. And some of my day-to-day tasks that I've done, it has been lightning quick. So am I happy with the purchase? Yes, I'm happy with the purchase. But 95% of the average consumer is probably not going to be editing videos day in, day out, transferring a lot of the files. And it would probably consist of just life admin, spreadsheets, and probably online shopping. For that, I think M4 Pro might even be too much of a spec. I think the base version is really, really good this year. Base model would fit 95% of the people. Yes, I'm happy with my M4 Pro, and I don't think the M4 Max it's something that anyone should be buying. That's probably for less than 5% of the MacBook Pro consumers. You got to be looking at 8K videos, post-production and all of that. So an amazing machine, but based on the saturation point, I think every computer right now in the market, be it Windows, be it Chromebooks, can deliver similar performance. Where the MacBook edges is the continuity, the ability to pick up, it's ready to go. And I think for that reason, this is a device I would recommend. This is easily going to last someone 5 years. Don't think about, the one thing I would say is, don't think about buying a MacBook for like 10 years. I think it will last you 10 years. I think it will last you more than Windows. I think Windows would get slower and probably laggier. So Mac, you won't feel that. I think you'd get the performance out of the Mac, but with the way how the chips are increasing in power and we've got the unknown in terms of Apple Intelligence, I would just say think about the next 3 to 5 years, get the base version, you'd be completely fine. Understand your buying criteria. What is the most extensive task you're going to do? If that doesn't include video editing, running 20 tabs of Chrome in the background, go with the base model. If it is you who run 20 tabs of Chrome and does some bit of programming and stuff like that, M4 Pro is super good. And on that note, check out my last video. I mean, it's a shameless plug, but check out my last video where you can configure the M4 Pro for £200 cheaper. We're playing Apple at their own game, right? If you haven't checked that out, do check it out. And also, if you stay till the end of the video, do give me a thumbs up on the comment section. Till I see you in the next one. Peace out.